Welcome back, guys. It's the Tightwad, and today we have another video fixing the golf cart. If you haven't seen the video showing how I purchased the golf cart, click up here in the top right and it'll open right up on your device. Today we're going to be working on the back seat of the golf cart. I had to replace the plywood on the bottom of it, so I'll show you all the details. It's time for another repair on the golf cart. When I got it, I didn't notice this was an issue, but this seat is rotten on the bottom. So you can see it lifts up. Whenever you flip this down, is how I first noticed. The whole seat came off. So what I'm gonna do is remove this plywood piece on the bottom here and replace it. And then I'll put these screws back in the new piece. I can take a screwdriver and just slide it down in there. There's actually still moisture in here, so it's completely rotted and it's black. So I don't know if it has mold or not, but I'm going to be wearing my respirator today while I'm working on this. First thing I need to do is measure to see how big this is. And it's 37 inches by 12 and a half. So I'm gonna write that down. And I'm gonna be replacing this plywood today with a shoring board, which is made to last a lot longer than your standard plywood. It's not marine grade, but it's made to use in underground electrical work and other type things like that. And then I also need to get this corner here. So I'm gonna take a piece of paper and rough draw around this corner here as well. So I'm gonna take a piece of paper here and trace that corner so that I can trace it onto our plywood and get it as close as possible. So I'll round that corner over later with a jigsaw. Now I'm going to put on my respirator, and the first thing I'm going to do is pull out all of the staples around the edges, and then I'm going to try to pull this piece out all in one piece and get it in a trash bag and sealed and put away from us. And then I'll start working on cutting the new piece and putting everything back together.
Here I'm using a flathead screwdriver and needle nose pliers to remove all of the staples. I wasn't sure how much it was going to crumble, so I moved outside and I have my trash can right beside me to go ahead and throw this nasty plywood in. And then I removed any staples that were left over and then removed the cover from the foam. I used my table saw to rip the shoring board down to the correct dimensions.
I took my piece of paper that I traced the angle on earlier and I cut it out with a pair of scissors. And then I looked for a round item in my shop that had the same curve on it. And this top for my glue bottle is really close. So it doesn't have to be exact, so I'm going to take this top for my glue bottle and I'm going to touch it to each side here to get my corner angles. And a router would be the easiest way with a what's called a radius bit and a flush trim router bit, or radius jig. But I don't have those kind of templates or jigs here, so I'm going to try to cut these with a jigsaw.
I use my drill press to drill the holes in the bottom of the shoring board. This allows air to escape when people sit down and compress the pad, and it also allows water to drain out if some happens to get in.
I didn't have a pneumatic stapler and I was worried that my hand stapler wouldn't work. So I went to Harbor Freight and picked up this wide crown air stapler, and it shoots these 1/2 inch wide staples. So hopefully this will work and hopefully it'll penetrate into that board that we use, but that shore board is super dense. So we'll see how these staples go in. I'm going to pop in some staples. Looks like there's a release right here and the magazine slides out. And I guess these go in this direction. That pops back into place. Then it has the quick connect on the back side here. Test this out on a piece of old reclaimed wood I have. This is oak, so it is a little bit hard. Definitely nailed it down flush there, so I am confident that it's going to work. All right, so now I need to get this attached back to here. And I watched a few videos and it said you can do spray adhesive on either side. So I'm gonna do spray adhesive on this and I'm gonna stick it to my board to hold it in place while we do the rest. I use spray adhesive a lot when applying templates for my signs, and I really like this Gorilla Glue spray adhesive. Works a lot better than even the 3M. I'm a big 3M fan, but their spray glue to me, just didn't work great. So get that on there. I'm gonna flip it over on our board here. Make sure we got a little hangover on each side. I'm gonna pull my vinyl over. This is actually a piece of silk. It looks like plastic, but all the videos I saw said it is actually silk. So it's made to help the vinyl slide on easier, and some said that it's also made to be a vapor barrier for your foam. So I'm going to get this flipped upside down and into our vinyl. And I probably should have gotten new silk, but it's not an option right now. I imagine I'll eventually get new vinyl for this seat as well. So I'm just gonna cover it with what I have for now. This seat doesn't have a front and a back as far as the vinyl goes. So I'm just gonna get it all pushed down in here. It is symmetrical. Trying not to rip this old dry vinyl. I have these two corners in down here, but I've got to get this one in. Just gonna try to work it in here. This last corner, just like a fitted sheet, is always the tightest. All right, so we got it on everywhere. We still have that 1/4 to a 1/2 inch hangover here. And now I want to be able to stretch this as tightly as possible. So I'm going to grab some plate weights and lay them across here. Ideally, I would have someone come and stand on it, but I don't have anyone available right now. All right, so that should simulate a person. We have 90 pounds here total. We have plus another 70 pounds, so that's 160, plus another 50, so 210, and I think the bottom ones were 10-pound weights. So a full-size grown man standing or simulating standing on it so that we can stretch the vinyl up around it. So what we're doing is compressing the foam so we get a nice tight fit once everything's done. I'm going to check all the edges to make sure I can pull it up at least to where the previous seam was. And it looks like I'm good everywhere. And I'm gonna start in the corner. So I'm gonna start in this back corner. I'm going to pull it tight and fold it over. And I'm gonna sink a nail. All right, the reason why I jumped is because the release for the air is back here on the back and I was covering it up with my hand. I'm gonna go ahead and put a few staples in this corner, make sure it holds. And I'm gonna go to the opposite corner and do the same thing. Pull it tight, make sure my seams are good. Fold it over a little bit, and then drive some staples in. All right, since I'm on this end, I'm gonna go ahead and grab this corner. And I can attest this gun has plenty of power to drive those staples in, even when I double over the vinyl several times here. My ends look good here, so I'm going to go ahead and do them. And I am stretching it as much as I can to get it nice and tight. I'm going to slide the plates a little bit towards you so I can access this back edge. Again, pulling it nice and tight. Back here, I'm going to go every 4 to 6 inches first. And then I'll come back and fill in the holes because I want to make sure there's no bubbles before I nail the whole thing in. All right, you'll be able to see what I did over there now. Pull it tight in every 4 to 6 inches. All right, now for the moment of truth. Flip it over. Seams look great. It's nice and tight. And you can see I was able to pull it another 1/4 inch from where it was previously to get it nice and stretched because it was slightly loose before. So let's go ahead and get this back on the golf cart now. All right, it's now time to attach the seat back to the plastic piece here. And I had the screws that came out of it. They were not stainless steel screws, so most of them were broken already. And then I had only 2 of them that I was able to pull out, but it's so rusted there are no threads left on it. So I went to Ace Hardware and picked up some stainless steel screws instead. They'll weather a lot better. Another option if you don't want to buy stainless steel is if you have some deck screws, some coated deck screws. That'd probably work well also. We're going to go with stainless for the longest lasting here. So the cushion goes all the way up against the edge of this plastic piece here, and I'm going to lay it down first and get the right side here. I want this to be the back, so I'm going to do it like this, and I'm going to flip this over and lay it on top of it. You do need to make sure that it's not hanging over here and that you have equidistant on each side here. So I'm going to grab a measuring tape and measure each side to make sure it's dead center so that it fits between the rails that this flips down onto. And then I can just sink my 8 screws here, and then I'll reattach this onto the cart. A little more than 2 inches and a little more than 2 inches. All right. So when you're buying your screws, they were 1 5/8 inches. I couldn't find 1 5/8 inches, so I went with 1.5 inches. That's going to go all the way through this piece here, and then have at least half the screws still sunk down into the next level there. And I'm going to do opposite corners just like we did earlier when we were putting on the cover. The reason why I took this off is because there are these 2 little L brackets here that it'll sit on. So I knew it would be easiest to attach it to the board first and then to put the hinge back on. So you just have this little piano hinge here. Just gonna line everything up, and then we can sink our screws. And we do have 3 longer screws here as well that are going down into the wood. And that's how it was previously, so I'm gonna return it to that same state, sinking these 3 long screws in to those holes. I don't recommend a long one in the corners because we did have that beveled edge on the wood. And you wanna make sure it's going in to the wood and not just into the fabric, into the vinyl. And with that done, we'll test the fit here. Everything looks good. Looks good from the side. I didn't have any rubbing whenever I flipped it down. And then it's all the way up to the front edge here so that riders won't get their legs injured. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe and follow the... I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe and follow the playlist for the golf cart as I do a lot more repairs on it. Click any of the videos shown on the screen right now and they'll open right up on your device. And as always, I hope you guys have a great day.